The views expressed on this program are those of the producers and individuals appearing on this program and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Sun Prairie Media Center staff, its video service providers, or the staff and elected officials of the City of Sun Prairie.
There's something that can be done as a possibility and it's going to benefit, then we'll try to connect those dots. You know what you're capable of, you've run at that pace, and now you have to redirect. Welcome to Moments of Strength. I'm your host, Mary Kaufman. In this show, we celebrate the incredible resilience of mothers showing up through life's challenges, growing through every triumph, and carving out space for their own passions and identity. We're here to uplift and reassure every mom that you are not alone, and asking for help is a powerful strength. Each episode brings the story of motherhood's beautiful chaos. I'm happy you can join us for today's inspiring journey. And today's guest is Kayla. Kayla, thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. So you and I just actually connected recently through a mutual friend, and that was great because we are both ambitious entrepreneurs, I would say.
Yes.
And you pretty recently kind of breaking out on your own from the corporate world, so we'll talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
So we're happy to have you, and just a reminder for the way the show is laid out, and its purpose really is to uplift moms and viewers in their journeys through motherhood, and we do that by telling your story. So in the hopes that they can pull suggestions and strength and support and just a sense of not being alone as they travel those bumpy roads of motherhood. So thank you for coming on and volunteering to share your story.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course. Okay, so to start out, if you can share a little bit about how you grew up. We like to start with childhood because what you choose and what's imposed on you in childhood, follows you through life. What you do with that, of course, is your choice, but those paths unfold and they're not unaffected by the things that happen in childhood. So if you can share, how you grew up as much or as little as you want and start wherever you want, that would be a good place to begin.
Okay. Well, I grew up in a very small town in Wisconsin, near Green Bay.
Okay.
And I had, a very supportive, close-knit family. It was my brother and myself with my parents, lived in the same town with our grandparents and our aunts and uncles. And so a lot of family time together, a lot of just, when you think back, running the neighborhood and hanging out with friends, and there wasn't a lot near us, so it was just a lot of being close with our friends and spending time with our family. I went to a small school, private school. It was a Lutheran school, so we had about 15 kids in our class from preschool up through 8th grade, and then went to a public high school. Again, very small high school, 80 kids in our class. So I was very big into sports growing up. Sports have been part of my whole life. I played them as soon as I could. In high school, I loved volleyball was my favorite sport, and basketball, and I played softball as well. So just, small town, fun, family time with friends.
Is your brother older or you're older?
My brother is older, a couple years older, and then my parents did get divorced when I was, I want to say, around 8 years old. And so then I gained a couple more brothers. I had 2 stepbrothers that were younger than me as well, and then an older stepbrother. So 4 brothers total, and I was right in the middle. So I did get a little bit spoiled growing up being the only girl amongst all those boys, but it was a good upbringing. Challenges with a family of divorce, like many families go through, but overall very loving and supportive family, faith-based family.
Did your in that small town, did your grandparents grow up there, and then this is just generational living in this town?
Yes, yeah. So both sides of my grandparents grew up in that town.
Yeah.
So we were, very close. I, at one point, lived kitty corner from one set of grandparents and, just down the road from another set of grandparents, spent a lot of time with them as well, which was great. A lot of good memories.
That's
from growing
lovely.
Up with them.
Yeah. I moved around a lot as a kid, so I'm always curious about what that's like to be there. And then, with a class of 15, that's more like a family really than, it's still a school and stuff like that, but to grow up with those kids.
Yeah, and
all those grades.
It was more or less the same kids, my whole childhood growing up. So it was just that small group of us.
Interesting. And then you played sports and any other extracurricular activities, music or anything like that?
It was really just sports. I never really had a knack for music. I was dedicated to sports, and even when I wasn't playing for school, I was training or playing outside of school. So
that's great. So then did you have some ambition to go to school, or was there a job you had in mind, or what happened post high school?
Yeah, I always knew that I wanted to go to college. I knew I wanted to do something in business. My dad owned his own business. He was an electrical contractor, so I had a small business where we grew up. And so spend a little bit of time in the office and kind of learning that side of things. My brothers all know electricity in and out. I know nothing about electricity, but I got my start in business just, working in the office. And, my mom worked for him at one point and did odds and ends for him, even, up through college, did some work for him.
Yeah.
I went to school for human resources. My mom influenced that just in terms of she always wanted, talked about wanting to go into human resources, and I was like, oh yeah, that sounds like something that I might be interested in. So I started in that, and I really enjoyed it. So I stuck with it through.
Where'd you go to school? Was it close to home, or?
I started at St. Norbert College in De Pere. For my first year, it was a little too small for me. Beautiful campus, but wasn't quite the campus feel that I was looking for. So then I transferred to Oshkosh, had some friends that went to Oshkosh. So I got my bachelor's from Oshkosh.
So that's fun. And then did you go right into the workforce in human resources from there?
Yes, I did. I had an internship my senior year at Oshkosh. And I did have a period after I graduated. It was in around 2009, so there was still coming off of the recession, so it was hard to find a job. So I moved back home with my parents for a few months, and then I got my first job in Stevens Point, working in human resources for a manufacturing company. So I was there for 6 months, and then they announced they were moving their manufacturing operations to Mexico. So then I put my resume out that night, and my resume is kind of a funny story, went to a really good friend of one of my brothers. He was a recruiter.
Okay.
And he was friends with somebody who was hiring for a position. So he got my resume, said, that's Eric's little sister, called me up, got my resume, and I, got a job right away. And that's what brought me to the Madison area.
Oh, gotcha.
So, and both my older brothers lived in the Madison area, so it's really where I wanted to end up anyways, because they were starting to get married and have kids, and I wanted to be by them. So it, worked out well.
Yeah, that's good. And is this where you, were in a relationship where you became a mom, or had that already happened?
Yes. So I met my husband on Match.com, and that was back when Match.com was just a website and emailing. It's not like the instant, conversations with the app now. So we emailed back and forth for a while, and then texted. And my sister-in-law was actually the one that convinced me to try Match.com.
There's always someone.
Yeah, because she had some friends that had some success with it, and I met my husband, and we actually talked for a couple months before we even met in person. And once we met in person, it moved pretty quickly from there, and we lived together. After about 5 months of dating, which was pretty fast, we also had a daughter named Bailey, and she was 3 at the time.
Okay.
So got to become, a mother
Right
figure
away.
right away into that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And that was part of what attracted me to him, was he was such a good dad. And, I always saw myself, having such a strong and stable family. So.
Yeah. So, moms become moms in a lot of ways, and the guests on this show have, traveled many different roads to motherhood, through adoption and just natural birth and all kinds of ways. So that's another way,
Mm-hmm.
But what is that like to go from like you're not? And then, it's different because you didn't prepare for 9 months and all of, it's a different, and there are, stepmoms and adoptive moms and pseudo moms, they're all different mother figures. What is that like to come into the role like that?
It is. It's hard to get other people who understand the stepmom situation unless you've lived it, but that is a great way to explain it, so that you don't have that like working up to becoming a mom through your pregnancy. You're just kind of like in the mother, situation. And it was great. She's such a wonderful kid. She still is a wonderful kid. I'll talk more about her. But, it was a learning experience for all of us. Bailey was very young. Her parents weren't all that, recently. They were recently divorced, somewhat recently divorced. And actually, both her parents were deployed in Iraq at the same time. And so she had a lot of transition in her first few years of life. So, we did the best that we could, and we had a good, strong relationship. And I gave her the best of me, and had a really good relationship with her mom, still do. So that was very important.
Of course.
But yeah, it's, going into becoming a mother quickly when you, meet somebody and quickly move in like we did.
Yeah. And then, there's so many things to consider too. The age of the child. So that, at 3, they only know what you present them. They don't have some frame of reference about how things are supposed to be. So that's different. And then is different, with older kids who have an awareness, for example, in your childhood, bringing in older brothers and then the dynamic there. And just that role that moms play and the things that they have to navigate to try to have that work out, in the best possible way. So, you mentioned a relationship with her mother. That always isn't possible. People's personalities and the things they've experienced, can provide obstacles to that. But if you can do that and selflessly and humbly try to create a relationship there, that really is the best interest of the child at that point. And that really is the focus. So.
Yeah. It's been really great to have that aspect in that relationship. And her and I both had our own, split parent situations when we were growing up, and really wanted to create an environment that was, best for the child, and also was just better for us too.
Well, that's the other thing. It's like, if you put the best interest of the child first, it puts you in a different mindset than, maybe there's hard feelings and there's a reason you're not together, or whatever that is. But the higher calling and the bigger purpose is, to selflessly raise that child in the best way possible. So, So yeah, little tip.
Yeah.
But very difficult to do. So you have Bailey and she's 3, and then, so you said you moved in, and so now you're doing this mother role, and what happens from there?
We dated and were engaged. We were together over a couple years before we ended up getting married.
Sure.
We had I think we dated for about over a year, and then we had a pretty long engagement. It was almost 2 years, just our engagement. And then after we got married, we moved into a bigger house, expecting to expand our family. And somewhat quickly after that, we were able to get pregnant. It took a little bit, but 8 months after we were married, we got pregnant with my firstborn. Her name is Eliana. And then we had another daughter. So we have 3 daughters. Amelia was born just under 2 years after Ellie. So they're just under 2 years apart.
And Bailey is like 4
or 5.
Oh no,
so she's
older.
8 years older than Ellie and 10 years older than Emmy.
Okay, got it. And they get along, and it's great.
Yeah. I mean, there's a dynamic when you have an age gap between kids. It's trying to be able to find things to do as a family that appease both sets of ages in the group. And then to have, Bailey split her time at the houses. And so I think sometimes there's a feeling of not being as close. All 3 of them aren't as close because, Bailey felt split between the houses. And our kids, of course, our younger 2, fight like sisters fight sometimes.
Yeah.
But overall, very loving, very empathetic, very kind-hearted kids. And they do all get along really well.
That dynamic of splitting time too, because my 2 older girls did that, and then my younger daughter and son, were at home. But when they were all young and they would go on the weekends, because their dad lived an hour away, so that's kind of how we had this split. They were here during the week and then with their dad on the weekends. But my Bailey, I have a Bailey too, and she would be home, and so it would be just us on the weekend. And then one thing over time that I realized is that, kids that age don't understand time. And so, so it's like hard for them to grasp what is the schedule. They don't know, because they don't know that Friday is Friday, when they're young. And so those were things that I kind of discovered later in life that, we talk about things that are imposed on you or that you choose when you're a child. So that was something I think that, impacted her. It was like, well, people leave and they come back, but how long is that? And and to your point about relationships, it might feel separate because they're gone and you're still here.
There's something happening, going on in that family while the other child isn't there, still going and then experiencing their own version of life at the other house.
And sometimes do things that, we don't camp, for example. But they might go camping, and I'm not going to go camping because, we'll find you someone else that can take you camping.
Yeah, there are differences in the houses. They're not, it's not always the same in terms of, hobbies or habits or parenting styles are different.
Or even rules or guidance Fundamentally, it helps if you can kind of be aligned with like the major things, but.
For sure.
But and as your girls are very little, they're not keeping track of that anyway necessarily. But I can tell you with 3 girls, with similar distance and ages, as they grow, if you foster that at home, that cohesiveness and those family experiences, there is an opportunity for them to be very close. And my girls are very close and rely on each other. And, they still, of course, occasionally irritate each other and stuff like that. But,
That's part of being a sibling.
For sure. Like if you didn't have that, I was telling my son this morning that the advice is to have a mild irritant in your life because it teaches you emotional control and, not to react to everything. So I was just irritating him while I was telling him that. But yeah, that's what siblings do. They teach you how to have self-control constantly, because they're in your space and in your world. So,
yeah.
So you've got 3 girls, and we should shift to talk about, were you working at the same time that you were, adding to your family, and talk about that dynamic a little bit.
Yes, I was working. When I graduated and got my first job, I was all into my career. I was always very driven, even growing up. I'm a type 3 Enneagram, which if you're not familiar with the Enneagram personality, it's called the achiever. And the achiever has an inner drive toward success, and success is based on achievement and accomplishment of goals.
Yes.
And also trying to be successful in the eyes of other people and needing validation and approval from other people in order to feel successful. So I think that played a role in my inner drive growing up, now that I look back on it. And I worked very hard in my career. I spent, a lot of time and energy on my career, and I kept that going, when I got pregnant and worked through my pregnancy, and then took the wonderful 12 weeks, which was not enough time with both babies, and took a maternity leave with both babies, and then just got right back into my career, trying to continue to accomplish more. And one thing looking back is when you go through, you have a heavy career presence in your life, and then you have babies, and then like you just continue to push, as a woman and as a mom, and you're trying to do all of the things at one time, and you don't let go of something, right? So there's a lot that I've learned looking back on my experience of becoming a mom and trying to do it all of the time. And as they got older, and then being the Pinterest mom and, trying to experience all of the things.
Did you do some of that Pinterest stuff? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I loved the Pinterest ideas, and like their first birthday parties were ridiculously elaborate. It's like, why?
How are their memories?
Yeah, they have no memory of that, but we have cute pictures.
Yeah, of course. Well, and some of that is for you too. I think, that's a good point. We know they're not going to remember, but you can show them, as they get older, the kind of investment you had in them and the kind of interest you had in celebrating them. It's not for everybody, but those are ways I think moms communicate how much they care sometimes. We don't always... I think that's a tangible way to show ourselves that we put effort into a celebration for them. Because sometimes if you don't do that, it's another day, and guess what? You did that the day before too. You woke up and did all the things. Right. They had dessert, So if you sometimes don't do a grand thing to show yourself, and maybe you don't feel like, you invested enough or something. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, or, it just works for some people. And
yeah, it's definitely more about you at the age of 1, I think.
Yeah. Well, they don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when they were really little, it was trying to be, trying to climb the corporate ladder, in my career, trying to be the best mom I could be. And I think it's common for a lot of women, but I know I lost myself for a couple years of just like who I was as a person, because I was so into who I was as an employee and as a leader, and who I was as a mom, and who I was as a wife. It took some conscious effort to really pull me out of like, who am I now as a person for myself? Because I'm not just a person for them, I'm a person for myself, and the mom guilt that kicks in. And so I think it was a girls' trip with one of my best friends was getting married, and so we went to Nashville for her bachelorette party, and it was like, it hurt in my heart to have to leave my babies.
Yes.
But it was so important to go on that trip for me, and it really did pull me out of that, like, I can't leave my babies home. To like, yes, I can. I can leave them with my very capable and loving husband, and I can go and I can have friends, and I can remember who I am as a person outside of just being a mom to them.
Yeah, that is very difficult.
It is.
Yeah. It took me way longer than when they were babies to even attempt to do that. And even now, if I go somewhere by myself, I'm always like, what are they doing? And also, why can they do that without me? And they're not little. So yeah, there's this mental sort of tether, to like what they have going on.
Yeah.
So if you were gonna, we're assuming that the viewers are parents and moms, and if you were going to, talk a little bit about, or maybe you have a piece of advice, and I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but when you say you've learned some things about what that's like to climb the corporate ladder, be all of those things and be successful at them simultaneously while you have babies. But what would you maybe say to your younger self? And then if people are watching, they could take value from that maybe.
I think one of the biggest things is thinking about your definition of what success is to you. There's so much in, how we're raised as kids, and that's every kid, not just my upbringing. But if you think about how kids are raised, they're raised for, get good grades and we'll applaud you, be good at sports and we'll applaud you. So you grow up in this, I need to people please, or I need to be the version of what other people want me to be. And then society just amplifies that, right? So society puts a lot of emphasis on titles and careers and status and money and all of those things. And so, those things were what I thought success was when I was younger. And, being able to define what success is for you as a person, as an individual, not based on those things, but what feels good to you, what feels good in your heart, what aligns to your values and who you want to be as a person. Those are the things that over the last few years even, I've learned so much about myself. And that's probably one of the biggest pieces of his advice is don't build your life based on what other people are telling you or based on your upbringing or based on what society tells you is important. Base it on what is important to you as a person.
That's very good advice. And I think most people are caught up in, and understandably so, the way society is organized, but at the same time, in doing that, you're sort of assuming that that's the optimal experience. And just because that exists does not mean that that is the best option for you or the only option, to be successful. So a very good point. And there are, when you're first in motherhood and everybody needs you and you're doing all the roles and maybe you're doing a great job, you're probably burnt out, but probably you're still digging deep and, showing up the next day. Plus the persistence of need, it keeps you going, it's not even self-propelled sometimes. People say like, you're on the hamster wheel and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, but I might be in there. My kids are on the outside, making that thing move. So it's not even self-propelled all the time. And so there's not a lot of time to reflect or self-assess or allow yourself the opportunity to say like, I don't think this is what I want to do. This isn't working. If I really think about it, this isn't how I want to spend my time. And sometimes you can do something about that right away. And sometimes you're just in a job or in a situation that you can't change today. But to have that awareness and then an aim to take a step in a different direction, that is so important, because otherwise you do that for a decade or two and then you don't get that time back. And you probably grew and learned. But if you can have that self-awareness, just keep a finger on the pulse of like what you want to be doing versus what you are doing. There's not a lot of space for that.
Yeah.
For moms just throw themselves into it.
So. I think giving yourself permission to slow down is so important. Just slow down and be in the moment and reflect and give yourself capacity to think and see and feel. It's so important in terms of identifying, who you want to be as a person and to have clarity in what's important to you.
Right. And what's the priority? What is the end goal here? I had a woman on the show and she was so intentional with her parenting. The whole time, she had a plan before she was going to get married. It was a great show. It's Becky. Okay. But anyway, but I went to college with her. I hadn't talked to her in years and had some ties to her family because she's a cousin of my best friend. But she was so intentional. She had thought about, when she gets married and has a family, this is her intention in raising children. And she really followed that. And she has from the outside in, I think she has a fantastic life, has done a great job. That's not for me to judge, but just I am. But it was so intentional, and we, in general, are not doing that as parents, Mm-hmm. I think a lot of us think we'll end up as a parent someday, maybe. But it's not that intention. So then you're in it, and then in real time you have to decide, like, what is my goal with this? I'm raising these people. I'm responsible for these little humans. What is my goal for this? Mm-hmm. And that's hard to do when you're also trying to be the best at your job mm-hmm. and still work out and still read and still keep the house together and have a relationship and let that be good. And mm-hmm. yeah. So how do people do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did have, a fortunate situation where at one point I was working 50, 60 hours a week. Mm-hmm. Really loved what I did and loved who I worked with and felt a lot of happiness and pride and accomplishment in the work mm-hmm. that I was doing, but it was taking me away from my kids a bit, from how present I wanted to mm-hmm. be with them. And I had an opportunity, it's about who you know and timing and all of that. And so had somebody that I previously worked with reach out and say, hey, we have another job where I work and we have a lot of flexibility, and they had every other Fridays off and lots of vacation time. And it was really hard for me to give up that career that I had built and loved so much. Mm-hmm. I was there for almost 10 years. And I let that go, and I did it because I wanted to be there with my kids, especially mm-hmm. when they were younger. Yeah. They are still young. The little ones are 8 and 10. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to be able to, be able to balance that career life mm-hmm. with being able to be a little bit more present with my family, and not just there, but mm-hmm. Present and actually engaging in things with them. So there was that kind of pivotal point in my career where I had that first opportunity to step back a little bit in mm-hmm. terms of the amount of time that I was spending in work, because it's not about how much time you spend in work, it's about the impact that you're having. Mm-hmm. So that was like my first realization of it's not the end all be all to be able to mm-hmm. work 60 hours a week to be able to prove your value.
Right. That's a tough shift though, mm-hmm. because that's something you knew, and you knew how to be successful at that. There was a definition as tangible, you could measure it, and to step back from that and then spend more time in something that doesn't give you the same kind of feedback, doesn't have the same kind of achievement levels, in parenting. Mm-hmm. But how was that for you, doing that? Was it a good decision?
Yeah, it was great. Yeah. I spent time with my babies every other Friday. We did fun things, and we hung out together. Over time, working at that same company, things shifted a little bit in mm-hmm. terms of more pressure, less flexibility. Ended up working, ended up not having that as much time off mm-hmm. anymore, based on just things that happened within the organization. Sure. And then again, bigger projects, bigger roles, more responsibility sort of started creeping back up, and burnout started, mm-hmm. Surfacing again, and on top of that, chronic stress and some other factors, I ended up with a chronic illness that then really shifted things for me. Mm-hmm. That was, I think, in 2021 mm-hmm. was when things started to feel heavy for me. A lot more stress feeling present in my life, a lot more fatigue mm-hmm. present, started feeling anxiety. Mm-hmm. The mental health stuff started to creep in. And I continued to just push through everything that I was doing. I didn't, it took me a really long time to let go of some things, even though I was really struggling mentally and physically and emotionally. Mm-hmm. And, it was ended up being a, 3-year period of my life where I really struggled mm-hmm. with a chronic illness. it was a really hard point in my life, but I learned so much about myself in that time, and since that time, I continue to learn more about myself. So it's definitely one of the biggest challenges that I faced in my life was this period of chronic illness that really took a lot away from me for a few years, where every day was a challenge, and every day I didn't know when I was going to find relief or answers.
My gosh.
There's a lot that's come out of that challenge in my life and the difficulties that I faced during that time.
And still parented.
Yes, still parented. Still parented as much as I could.
Yeah.
I spent 2021 in and out of the hospital a lot, not really knowing what was happening. It started as anxiety. Then, it was really deep, like I called it soul crushing, like fatigue. And I had gastrointestinal issues and brain fog and breathing issues.
My gosh.
And just like, I wrote them all down at one point. I had 26 different symptoms at one time. In the emergency room, in and out, my husband, because we have this kind of relationship, would tease me that I needed a punch card for the emergency room. Like, oh, put another punch on your punch card, which was just our way of trying to find some humor in a tricky situation for us.
And those symptoms are kind of, they could be a number of things.
Yeah.
And so finding an answer to that was probably tricky.
It was really hard. And, in the conventional medicine system, I had a number of different doctors all trying to treat me for different clusters of symptoms and none of them talking to each other and not getting any answers. So I think at the end of the year, I had a diagnosis of IBS, anxiety, and chronic fatigue. And
you probably could have diagnosed
those aren't
yourself
diagnoses; those are symptoms.
Yeah.
But I was fortunate at one point toward the end of the year, one of the doctors ran a blood test for copper, and it came back off the charts high. And he said, "Well, we're not really low. We were checking to see if it was low. We're not really worried about it if it's high." And I was like, "What?"
But it's off the charts.
It's off the charts. This is the first thing that seems to make sense. I started doing research, and I'm like, there's so much to unpack with like copper toxicity and what it can do to your body, which just for the viewers in terms of helping to educate on my experience, it had to do with my root cause, which I'll get to, but also the type of birth control that I was on.
Interesting.
Can elevate your copper levels. So, and you have to be very careful about how you come off birth control to maintain your copper. You can actually trigger your symptoms worse when you start to bring your copper down. So my doctor said, was transparent, said, I don't really know anything about copper. We're not even allowed to order those tests. So I did a lot of research and like, what kind of doctor can help me with this copper toxicity that I've never even heard of before? So I found a functional medicine doctor. It's Dr. Kelly. I still see her today. And so I worked with her and started managing a lot of the things that I was going through in terms of my physical and my mental health. When I managed my copper toxicity issue, my mental health started getting a lot better.
Good.
I was having panic attacks regularly. I'd never had a panic attack in my life, and I was having them regularly. Got that under control. Got my stomach issues under control. Eventually, throughout the years, we worked on, even balancing nervous system health and adrenal support. And throughout that time, my health started to improve with everything that we worked on. And it really is a journey and you have to be patient.
Yeah.
You and I have talked in the past
we were
about,
just talking
we
about,
were just talking about not having
I'm
patience.
not patient. I'm working on it.
But, working with her, we, worked on one thing at a time, and my root cause ended up being mold toxicity or mold exposure that gave me an inflammatory response. And I'm transparent about that, again, help educate people about, I would have thought in the past that mold is respiratory issues
Right.
and things
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
that. But I did not have any respiratory issues. It was built up in my body over the years as an inflammatory illness, and it wreaked havoc on my system and caused this just wide range of symptoms, in which what took, years of being able to spend that time with my family and with my kids and being the partner and mom that I wanted to be, it took that away from me. And so I like to educate people about, heavy metal toxicity and mold toxicity, the things that can happen. Your body is such an intricate and complex thing that I've never done the research or had a reason to understand it in the past, and just our biological systems and how everything works together. But we're very complex humans, mentally and physically. And so being able to find the right support, functional medicine saved my life. So if anybody is having chronic health issues, like functional medicine is always what I recommend, because you can find out so much more than you can in conventional medicine. For reasons, that we don't need to get into. But
Sure.
it's good to have a system of, your primary doctors, your conventional doctors serve a very important purpose. And there's this whole other world of medicine out there that can help women and people that feel stuck with symptoms or with diagnoses like chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia and, autoimmune conditions, that there's this other world of medicine out there.
Yeah, that's interesting. First of all, I did not know copper was a threat.
Yeah. Well,
until you hear, somebody goes through that,
Yeah.
and even as somebody who, you were always interested in sports, so I'm not going to make an assumption, but you just talked about going to the athletic club this morning and stuff. So probably taking care of yourself sort of just as a regular thing, and then to have something where you don't have an answer for why, chronic fatigue, when you're somebody who is physically active all the time, what tired is, and what exhaustion is from exerting yourself physically, and then to have this other sort of just unexplained tired or inability to...
it was unlike anything I've ever experienced. I could get up and go to work in the morning. It was hard to be at work, but I could make it until 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I just could not function past 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'd get home, my kids would get home, I would have to lay on the couch. I couldn't make dinner for them. I couldn't be happy to greet them in the door.
Yeah, it's so hard.
And I would just count down the time to putting them to bed.
Yeah.
And I could lay next to them and sing a couple songs and have that much strength to sing a couple songs. And then I'd go to my bedroom and I would lay in the fetal position and cry.
Oh my gosh.
And then I would fall asleep, and then I would wake up and I would do the same thing every day. And every day was the same thing until I, started finding some answers. So in the moment when I was getting no answers, I was like, this can't be it.
Right.
This can't be it for me.
Yeah.
I have way more to give to this, to myself, to my kids, to my husband. I'm so thankful to have my husband and the friends that I have in my life during that time.
Yeah.
They really, made me have the motivation to be able to survive and get through what I got through. But it was really, really hard to be able to look at my husband and my kids in the eyes and not be the mom.
And then worry that
what is this doing to them?
Is this the end?
And what is this doing to them? They don't have the strong mom that I used to be and that I want to be for them. They see a mom that lays on the couch and that cries in her bedroom and can't interact with us and do fun things with us. I had so much guilt because I thought I was ruining my kids in some way.
I feel that so much, of course.
Which of course you're not.
No.
And they're resilient beings, and they probably learned a lot in watching me go through that and the resilience that I had. And so
they also probably became more independent.
Yeah.
Because when they're those ages, well, everybody's not like that, but some parents tend to like do more, and they have to sort of demonstrate that they can do something. You go, oh yeah, they can make their own sandwich. Oh yeah. So
they did. They definitely did. Yeah. They are very independent children. Part of that is that's the way that we raise them, and part of that, I'm sure, has to do with I just wasn't able to be there for them in the same capacity as I had in the past. And so, you know, looking back on it, I learned a lot about myself. My kids learned about themselves and about me, and in good ways.
Right.
You know, my kids will tell you that I teach them about resilience, and I teach them that we can do hard things and do things that, you know, put us outside of our comfort zone. So they're, you know, at the ages that they are, they're able to voice those things and have this level of mental and emotional toughness that not only is things that I actively teach them, but that I think that they learned during a hard period for us.
And then watched you come through it.
Yeah.
So that's an extreme example for kids to be witness to. So, yeah. Among all the other strong things.
And if I ask them about it, they're like, we don't even know what you're talking about. I put way too much pressure on myself and guilted myself way too much during that time. I didn't give them enough credit to just, you know, be lighthearted, compassionate humans that they are. And I thought that I was, you know, hurting them in some way, and that was not the case. No, because they adjust to what is presented to them, you know. And then another thing we forget is, like, they have their own thing going on too. So a lot of times as parents, we see what they're seeing, but through our eyes and our experience. We're like, oh my gosh, because we think, like, if I had to do that, but it's like, yeah, if you had to do that after, you know, your 40 years of life, you would have a different reaction than kids. But they sort of adjust to what's happening. And then if you can be loving and foster everything you can with whatever you have left, you know, that does make a difference. And it did for you too. So coming out of that, was that really the impetus for going out on your own? Yeah. So you were employed during that time? I was. I was. And I was fortunate to have very understanding employers, you know, leaders that I worked for. And I still dug deep and continued to, you know, provide what I felt was the best value I could and the best impact that I could given the circumstances. You know, I tried switching jobs at one point just to see, like, maybe burnout is a factor here, and maybe I'm just not aligned with the job that I have or the company that I'm working for anymore, because alignment is very important. And continued to, you know, just face you know, I would say a plateau of symptoms, because I had, you know, continued to get better over the years with the help of my doctor. But I sort of plateaued while working, and so earlier this year, in January, I decided to just quit my job. My husband and I said, you know, we've been saving up for a new house. We said there's always a new house, you know, down the road. So I'll just take some time off. I was gonna, you know, go through the summer, spend time with my kids, and then in September would figure out what I wanted to do. I made it about 3 weeks after I quit my job, and I was like,
that was awesome.
Like, yeah, that was good. This staying home thing is nice, but I need something else to keep me as intellectually busy. And I'd always thought about owning my own business. I never thought that I would have the courage to actually do it. You know, so it's one of those things where sometimes, you know, God hands you blessings in packages that you don't expect, or ways that you don't expect to receive them. And, you know, also came across some, you know, women coaches, other entrepreneurs that helped me see the possibilities that I have to not only continue to improve on my health and my own personal well-being and really focus on myself, but also be able to bring something and bring impact to the world in the way of my career too. So it's been a really great year in terms of continuing to learn about myself it's been, focusing on myself has been so important in terms of my continued healing journey, and really understanding myself inside and out, you know, really from a well-rounded perspective. So physically, mentally, you know, emotionally and spiritually, really being able to look at things from a big picture perspective, and slowing down to be able to say what is really important to me, what fills my cup, what makes me feel good, and then how do I continue to live a life that's aligned to that, and also be able to have a career that feels good, and I can provide impact, and I can, you know, provide a service to people and serve a purpose in that way as well.
Yeah.
So it's been a really powerful and I would say pivotal year. And just recently attended some business events and some very powerful speakers who really, I'd say, embody a life that I want to live.
Yeah.
And there was a common theme across all of them. And, you know, it really resonated with me in terms of continuing to go down this path that I've come across.
Yeah.
You know, so really continuing to think of all the aspects of wellness. You know, my faith, I think, is one thing that I'm like, I really feel like that was something that I was missing in terms of like, there's something missing. And I think leaning into my faith is one of those things that is really been like eye-opening to me. Of like, yes, this is what I need more of in my life. So that's been really
well, and you talked
eye-opening.
about how that was such an important part of growing up too.
Yeah,
you know?
it was. Yeah, and I've always been very, you know, faith-led. We've been, you know, Christians growing up. I, you know, embed that into my family now. But even just, it's the mindset around like really being able to put your faith and your trust in everything that you're doing, and being able to look to God and say, you know, I put my faith in you. I trust that you're gonna, that you're doing what's best for me. And when I was going through that bad period of time, you know, I did lean on my faith quite a bit. And now that I'm sort of, I would say, on the other side, so to speak, just it's very empowering to, you know, see how far that I've come in the last few years.
Well, and to, you know, everybody's beliefs might be different, but to come from a place of faith versus fear, you know, instead of coming from a place of I don't have and I need to get, to, you know, I'm a capable person who can offer this, and I'm just going to trust that that will land somewhere it's supposed to in the world. Those are two very different approaches and ways to live. So now, what are you doing? Because we should talk about, because you have a business.
I do, yes.
Now, so.
Yes, so I spent the first, 6 months or so building on my business in coaching women leaders through burnout. And because that was, while I had sort of this underlying medical reason behind my chronic illness, burnout still played a role
for sure
in my life, right? And probably actually made my chronic illness worse or come on in a more, you know, in a more powerful way.
Yeah.
And the things that I learned about healing and still trying to be a leader, and how do you heal and how do you create a life of balance? You know, I learned things that I wanted to teach other women.
Yes.
And so I started, and now I'm going to be expanding my business here in Q4 and starting to work with more organizations, working with business owners and executive teams on growing their businesses. It's what I did in my career prior to going out on my own.
Yeah.
Really love the big, powerful, complex growth projects, transformation projects, and working with executive teams, and being able to embed what I've learned, not only in terms of like, how do you approach your own experience with resilience and trying to prevent burnout, but also being able to embed the systems and the cultures and the practices when you're trying to grow a business. How do you then embed things so that you're not burning yourself out and you're not burning your people out? Because if you want to sustain your success as a business, you can't just continue to overwork your employees and overwork yourself. So how do you grow successfully and to be able to do it in a sustainable way? So I'm really excited to marry together my background and my passion with helping businesses grow and the experiences that I've had with my own burnout experience and, experience coming back from chronic illness, and just, the passion that I feel for helping other people continue to have both a healthy, happy life and also feel successful in your career. So I'm really excited about the continued growth.
Yeah. So if people watching this are interested, then we'll put up on the screen your website and they can go there. And by the time this airs, that will be up and running because it's in progress right now. Yes,
the website's still a work in progress.
Yeah.
I'm also on,
but you're on socials.
LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. So I post a lot of content there as well. And we'll be launching my website within the next few weeks.
A little pressure from the show.
That's right.
That's great. So I'm excited to see where that goes. We have some aims that align in our businesses, I think, with the whole resilience piece. And just, like you talked about, you can have great systems in a business. You can have great ideas and great systems, and that can all line up. But if you don't take care of your people, it doesn't mean coddle and buy pizza on Fridays, but like give them trainings and consultants that can come in and teach them how to be strong from the inside and maintain those systems so that, they're not leaving, they're not tired, they're not overworked, like you said. To have somebody come in who has that experience and really teach how to do that with your people is super valuable, and people should take advantage of that.
Yeah.
Because you have all that success in your former life in the corporate world too, so you're not just coming up with this, because you wanted to start a business. There's all of those things flow into what you're doing now, and so people should take advantage of that.
And I think businesses really do care about their people, and they want their people to be well and to be healthy and happy individually, and they want results, and you can get more results, more sustainable results, if you have strong people, healthy people, people that can come to work and feel purpose in what they're doing. They feel good and have a lot of energy, and they can be more productive, and there's more innovation. So it's really the human side of doing the right thing, and also there's a lot behind it from a business case perspective as well.
And you can even be a great leader and know that you yourself don't necessarily know the ins and outs of how to get these people to be strong from the inside. You can still be a great leader, but then to engage somebody who specializes in that is valuable as well. So so good luck with that. And people should take advantage.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so any other Pinterest suggestions, any other advice or pieces of knowledge you want to give to moms before we wrap up?
I think, what's been on my mind a lot lately is if you can give yourself permission to slow down, if you can give yourself self-compassion in your life as a woman and as a mom, and you can give yourself permission to really focus on yourself, that, there's so much that can come out of that in terms of just small moments of joy in your day-to-day life, like just even being able to look at the fall trees and seeing how bright the colors are. It seems silly, but really being able to feel it, and the amount of gratitude that you can have in your day-to-day life is just very, very powerful when you give yourself space to grow as a person and to give yourself permission to do that and to let go of feelings of guilt and expectations.
Yeah, that's great, and I agree with that. It's difficult to do, so do it a minute at a time if you're just starting out, because you will give up, and you'll go back to all of that need to control. And
it's one moment, it's one choice at a time, and it's taken me years to get to this point, and I'm still learning about myself and experiencing different things. And I have good days and I have bad days. And, you know, it's one moment, one thing at a time. Just make one choice at a time. And you can continue to learn a lot about yourself.
Yeah, and they'll add up. And yeah, then pretty soon you'll be living at least some of your life the way that you intend. So that's good advice. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm excited to see where your business goes.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
It's needed, I think. So
yeah.
So
I have a lot of impact planned for 2026.
Yay! So. We'll be out here making reels. We were talking about that too. So thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. It's been so nice to get to know you. And thanks for sharing your story. Keep in mind that you should keep your perspective, but don't be afraid to step into somebody else's, like we did with Kayla today, and take that time to take a step back and just enjoy something 1 minute a day to start out, and then you can grow from there. Continue to show up. We talked a lot about resilience today. That's so important. You need it, your kids need it, the world needs it, so make sure you're showing up every day. Have a pursuit, an aim, a goal. It will keep you aligned to being your authentic self and getting after it and maximizing this time that you are gifted here. And when you feel alone, put one of these shows on, but try not to feel alone because there are 2 billion of us out here and we are here for you. Thank you.